Ever notice how the real you seems to peek out when things get tough?
Definitely. It's like we have layers.
Exactly. What we show the world, that's one thing. What we think privately, well, that's another.
And then there's maybe something deeper, that secret self that only shows up under, extreme pressure.
That's what we're diving into today, this whole idea of the public, private, and yeah, maybe secret self.
And those external pressures, they almost act like a shortcut, don't they? They reveal things faster.
They really do. And we're looking at this through a fascinating lens today. CIA training, basically.
Right from that Andrew Bustamante video, Psychology of Survival, what CIA knows about you.
Yeah, it's their perspective on what makes us tick when, everything's on the line.
So the mission today, what are we trying to figure out?
Okay, so the mission is to really get how external stuff, especially like resource depletion, running out of energy, patience, whatever, how that exposes who we really are.
And why that matters for understanding the people around you. Not just in spy games, but everyday life.
Precisely. So, where do we start? Maybe with how social norms just kind of compress.
Yeah, that's a good starting point.
Mm.
The idea that in survival mode, all the politeness, the hierarchy, it gets squeezed.
It really does. The video mentions how we revert to something more fundamental.
Because keeping up appearances, being polite, that actually takes energy, right? It requires resources.
Totally. Willpower, focus, maybe just not being starving.
And when those resources dry up, poof, carefully built structure just can't hold.
Like being hangry. It's almost a cliche, but it fits perfectly.
It really does. That sudden snap isn't just bad temper.
No, it's your body saying, I have no fuel left for niceties. The basic need just takes over.
Yeah, feed me
Yeah.
becomes the primary directive. So even something that simple cuts through all the social layers.
It shows how basic biological needs can just completely override learned behavior.
And that connects directly to a key CIA concept from the video.
Yeah.
The difference between core and operational personality.
Right. The idea that your core self is pretty stable from
Huh.
what, like 15 to 65?
Roughly, yeah. Which is kind of surprising, maybe.
Hmm?
We like to think we change dramatically.
Well, maybe the core doesn't change, but our management of it does. That's the nuance, I think.
Exactly. We develop resources, coping mechanisms, ways to hide the weaknesses or play up the strength.
We learn to pretend better, maybe.
Yeah.
Or for longer, anyway.
That's the operational personality. It's the version of us we deploy.
Mm.
It takes effort. It takes those resources.
And when the resources run low, the core starts showing.
Which brings us to that anecdote, the perfect mom story. That was quite something.
Oh, yeah. Walk us through that again.
So you have this woman known for decades, literally decades, as being incredibly patient, kind, tolerant. That's her brand, her operational self.
Super consistent, like the rock of the family kind of thing.
Totally. But then, at a wedding celebration after a very long day,
Resources depleted.
bingo, they end up somewhere unexpected, a drag bar. And for her, this seemed to be a real trigger.
Okay.
And suddenly, the judgmental comments start coming out. Things totally at odds with the perfect mom persona.
Yeah. Wow. So the carefully built armor just cracked.
But pretty much. The long day, the unexpected environment, it pushed past her ability to maintain the operational front.
And revealed a private view she'd kept hidden for years.
It's a perfect illustration. It shows you can sometimes see past the public performance.
And the video suggests, well, one way is to introduce a bit of stress or adversity.
Yeah, because unexpected pressure makes that mask slip much faster, doesn't it?
You see the more instinctive reaction, the less managed self.
Like that analogy they use the big tough guy.
Oh, the one who talks a big game.
Yeah, and then a loud noise happens, and he instantly jumps behind his girlfriend.
Ah. Yeah, okay. It's not about judging the reaction itself, but about seeing the switch.
Exactly. The immediate shift from the public projection to the private instinct. That's the data point.
So, okay, how do we potentially use this ethically in just regular life? The video gives some ideas, right? More about observation.
Right. It's about understanding, not manipulating, ideally.
Hmm.
The golf analogy is a gentle start.
Low stakes. You might see someone, nudge their ball a little when they think no one's looking.
Or, yeah, fudge their score. Small things, but it gives you a tiny peek behind the curtain in a relaxed setting.
But golf is pretty controlled, as the video points out.
Very. So for a bit more insight, think about that crowded train station idea.
Yeah. See how someone reacts to chaos, to having their space invaded, minor frustrations?
Especially if you're, say, in a tense negotiation with them. How do they handle unrelated pressure? Does it spill over? It shows their baseline investment or irritation.
Or what about something deliberately draining, like an escape room?
Ooh, that's a good one. High pressure, time limit, cognitive load.
You'd see how they really problem solve, how they interact when the mental energy is low.
Definitely. And even simple timing can matter, like scheduling important meetings late in the day.
Because people are tired, their guards are down.
Exactly. Their resources are already taxed from the workday, maybe personal stuff too.
Like that example of the spouse calling repeatedly during the meeting.
hmm And the person's professional mask starts to slip, showing the private frustration. It bleeds through.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. The video talks about the idea of good, how it's subjective.
Yeah, that it's often tied to your mission, what's good for your family, your business.
It's not some universal absolute, is it?
Not in this context, no. And that historical example they used, the sacrifice for rain.
Pretty jarring, but it makes the point. Definitions of good can be radically different based on context and perceived needs.
Absolutely. Which kind of leads into the next bit about collaboration versus equality.
Right. The video frames collaboration, working together for better results as like the ideal societal model.
Superior to just basic cooperation even. A deeper level of shared goals.
But then it immediately bumps up against the reality that, well, people aren't equal, are they?
In terms of talents, opportunities, starting points, no. There are inherent differences.
So the desire for equality, the video suggests, is often really a desire for fair opportunity, a fair shot.
Yeah, a fair at bat, as they put it.
Fail.
A level playing field to start. And maybe controversially, it suggests that privately, most of us do want to collaborate with the most capable, most invested people.
Even if we don't always say that out loud.
Right, because saying it might sound judgmental. But for achieving a goal, you naturally gravitate towards the best collaborators.
Which brings us right back to that gap between public statements and private beliefs.
The core idea. The CIA, apparently, watches public life closely because it offers clues to those hidden private thoughts.
Our public talk is often just a shade, a derivation of what we really think.
There's always an element of performance, of managing the message,
Like the person loudly advocating for public schools.
while sending their own kids to private school. That example really sticks.
It makes you instantly question, okay, what's the real belief here? What's the underlying motivation?
Is it altruism or something else? Personal benefit, reputation.
And even expressing values like, say, humility or kindness.
The video offers a pragmatic take.
Mhm.
Maybe we value those in others because it benefits us. Not necessarily cynical, just realistic about motivations.
So the big takeaway here for you listening is really recognizing these layers. Public, private, maybe secret.
Understanding that people operate on these different levels is key to getting a real insight into them, what drives them, how they might react under pressure.
And it makes you think, doesn't it? What about you? What situations reveal your less guarded self?
Yeah, where's the gap between your public presentation and your private reality? That's a tough question to ask yourself.
It really is. And maybe the final thought to leave you with is, in this world where everyone's curating an image, especially online, how do we find genuine connection? How do we know what's real? And what does all this performance say about, well, how we interact as humans?
Definitely something to chew on.
Yeah.
It changes how you see things, for sure.